Got the news on Friday morning, but a tear I couldn't find. You showed me how I'm supposed to live, and now you showed me how to die. I was lost till Sunday morning. I woke up to face my fear. While writing you this goodbye song, I found a tear. I'm gonna miss that smile. I'm gonna miss you, my friend. Even though it hurts the way it ended up, I'd do it all again. So play it sweet in heaven, 'cause that's right where you wanna be. I'm not crying 'cause I feel so sorry for you, crying for me. I got up and dialed your number, and your voice came on the line with that old familiar message I'd heard 1,000 times. It just said, sorry that I missed you, leave a message and God bless. I know you think I'm crazy, but I had to hear your voice, I guess. I'm gonna miss that smile. I'm gonna miss you, my friend. Even though it hurts the way it ended up, do it all again. So play it sweet in heaven, 'cause that's right where you wanna be. I'm not crying 'cause I feel so sorry for you, I'm crying for me. So play your upside down, left-handed, backwards bass guitar. Now see you on the other side, superstar. I'm gonna miss that smile. I'm gonna miss you, my friend. Even though it hurts the way it ended up, I'd do it all again. So play it sweet in heaven, 'cause that's right where you wanna be. I'm not crying 'cause I feel so sorry for you, I'm crying for me. I'm still crying, I'm crying for me. I'm still crying.
Sorry you missed me. I'll get back with you as soon as I can. Thank you. God bless.
Got the news on Friday morning, but a tear I couldn't find. You showed me how I'm supposed to live, and now you showed me how to die. I was lost till Sunday morning. I woke up to face my fear. While writing you this goodbye song, I found a tear. I'm gonna miss that smile. I'm gonna miss you, my friend. Even though it hurts the way it ended up, I'd do it all again. So play it sweet in heaven, 'cause that's right where you wanna be. I'm not crying 'cause I feel so sorry for you, crying for me. I got up and dialed your number, and your voice came on the line. That old familiar message I'd heard 1,000 times. It just said, sorry that I missed you. Leave a message and God bless. I know you think I'm crazy, but I had to hear your voice, I guess. I'm gonna miss that smile. I'm gonna miss you, my friend. Even though it hurts the way it ended up, do it all again. So play it sweet in heaven, 'cause that's right where you wanna be. I'm not crying 'cause I feel so sorry for you. I'm crying for me. So play your upside down, left-handed, backwards bass guitar. Now see you on the other side, superstar. I'm gonna miss that smile. I'm gonna miss you, my friend. Even though it hurts the way it ended up, I'd do it all again. So play it sweet in heaven, 'cause that's right where you wanna be. I'm not crying 'cause I feel so sorry for you. I'm crying for me. I'm still crying. I'm crying for me. I'm still crying.
Could I ask the congregation to please rise?
Got the news on Friday morning, but a tear I couldn't find. You showed me how I'm supposed to live, and now you showed me how to die. I was lost till Sunday morning. I woke up to face my fear. While writing you this goodbye song, I found a tear. I'm gonna miss that smile. I'm gonna miss you, my friend. Even though it hurts the way it ended up, I'd do it all again. So play it sweet in heaven, 'cause that's right where you wanna be. I'm not crying 'cause I feel so sorry for you.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Crying for me. I got up and dialed your number, and your voice came on the line. That old familiar.
Good afternoon. I want to welcome you all here this afternoon. And from the amount of conversation that's going on, I know that you have lots of stories to tell and to share with each other. So that's great, and I think this is going to be a wonderful time. We have come this afternoon to celebrate and to remember the life of Bill Jacobson. My name is Robbie Pusher. I'm Bill's cousin, and I went to school with Lacey. So I've known, well, all my life, I've known Bill and known Lacey since I was 6 years old. And it's an honor to be asked and to be a part of the service this afternoon. Now, Lacey has asked me, before we begin, to take a moment to remember Bill's younger brother, Keith, who on March 17th passed away in Victoria. Keith was a longtime resident of Campbell River, and when he was facing the end of his life, all the boys had gathered with him in Victoria and were there when he passed away on March the 17th. Keith was known for his wit, his acerbic tongue, his sense of humor. I don't think there's any person that walked through the doors of the Jacobson household, whether you're a cousin, a friend, or an acquaintance, that didn't come out with some sort of nickname. Mine was Hunky Hotel Man, in case you're wondering, so that was one of many, but yeah, that was a title that I was given at one time. So Keith had a great sense of humor. He was a wonderful individual, a kind man, an open heart for so many people. He left a large gathering of friends in Campbell River where he had lived for, I guess, about 40 years or so. The thing about Keith is if you were his friend, if he chose you to be his friend, then you could be assured that you had a friend for life who was there for you, who was caring, loving, and would always have your back. He was very loyal that way. And so for Keith, I'll just raise a virtual pint of beer and say, fish on, Keith. And we've come here this afternoon to remember Bill and support Lacey and her family, and just to be with one another and to laugh and to cry and to share times together. So at this time, I'm going to ask Julia Denoyer, did I say that right? Denoyer? Okay, to come, and she's going to read a poem.
Hi, I'm one of Bill's many nieces, and I have a poem for him called Death is Nothing at All. Death is nothing at all. It does not count. I have only slipped away into the next room. Nothing has happened. Everything remains exactly as it was. I am I, and you are you, and the old life that we lived so fondly together is untouched and unchanged. Whatever we were to each other, that we are still. Call me by the old familiar name. Speak of me in the easy way which you always used. Put no difference into your tone. Wear no forced air of solemnity or sorrow. Laugh as we always laughed at the little jokes that we enjoyed together. Play, smile, think of me, pray for me. Let my name be ever the household word that it always was. Let it be spoken without an effort, without the ghost of a shadow upon it. Life means all that it ever meant. It is the same as it ever was. There is absolutely an unbroken continuity. What is this death but a negligible accident? Why should I be out of mind because I am out of sight? I am but waiting for you, for an interval, somewhere very near, just round the corner. All is well. Nothing is hurt, nothing is lost. One brief moment, and all will be as it was before. How we shall laugh at the trouble of parting when we meet again.
Thank you, Julia. I'd like to ask Bob if he would come at this time.
I had to write this down because emotionally I couldn't do it. All this stuff is Billy and I for 42 years. I called him my buddy Billy. Oldest brother of 9 children who moved to Grand Prairie in 1980 as a salesman and a project manager for Supreme Windows. We got to know each other as competitors and through fastball. He called in 81 looking for a center fielder for a new team he was putting together, and so I joined him. From then until the year 2000, we were teammates who traveled to numerous tournaments, coached minor ball, built ball diamonds through South Baseball Association, and worked as a team to bring junior men's fastball championships to Grand Prairie. When his boys were older, he got involved in minor hockey as a winter activity, and the highlight of those years was a tournament to the Czech Republic. In about the mid-1980s, the market crashed in Grand Prairie, and his firm Supreme Windows pulled out of town, and Bill chose to stay as most of Lacey's families were nearby. At about the same time, my partner in Northern Glass decided we needed to be more diversified, so we created a new company called North Cackle Exteriors in order to compete with the renovation companies such as Trent Home Improvements. I talked to John into hiring Bill as our manager. Those were great years as we were together 7 days a week, building a new business. Camping, snowmobiling, fishing, and playing fastball. We even went as far as using our business to hire pitchers for our ball team. They were better pitchers than employees. But it was all about our ball, and our business was struggling, so my partner decided we needed to streamline our business, and Bill moved on. He then created his own renovation company called A&W Home Improvements, which he later sold to Standard Roofing, and he worked there as a salesman and coordinator for many years. Next, he went to Peace Windows and Peace Siding as a salesperson, and finally established his last company, Restore More Renovations, which he still has, well, Lacey has today. Through his business career, Bill believed in giving back to the community, so he joined the Swan Street Rotary Club and was a member for over 26 years. He participated in lots of our club activities, but he loved any volunteering he had to do as with children such as Arbor Day and Greenathon. He also gave his time to the Grand Prairie Construction Association and Swan City Snowmobile Club. Sorry. I have plenty of amusing tales of our times together, and will share a few. With Bill deciding to stay in Grand Prairie, he changed from a city slicker to a wannabe cowboy. One of his first adventures was a 12-hour cattle drive for Harold and Mary Lou Matlock, his father-in-law and mother-in-law. When it was over, all he could think about was finding some baby powder. You can guess what that was for. One time he was out quadding on a lease with Lacey and his brother-in-law Clay and father-in-law Harold, and he broke through the ice of a beaver dam. He was up to his waist in water, and Lacey and Clay have him by the hand and are trying to pull him out, and he will not let go of the quad handle. It turns out that the quad was rented, and he was not losing it. In the meantime, Harold builds a fire, that's the father-in-law, and when he finally gets out of the water, Bill strips down by the fire and is buck naked while his clothes are drying. Clay can't get that picture out of his mind even today. Speaking of water, Bill seemed to be attracted to it. On several occasions when we were snowmobiling in the Wapiti River and the Pinto Creek, Bill would stop and he would start sinking into the slush or the overflow. We named him Water Lily Billy. For a number of years, we used to go to Cackwa snowmobiling, camp in lean-tos. My boys were quite young then, and we would set up a reflector fire and burn it all night. Bill's favorite shift was the first shift, because it ended at midnight. He was responsible for drying out my children's gear by the fire, which sometimes came out with some defects a little bit, There was a little bit of inattention. Probably had to do with the whiskey. Those trips were so much fun, pretending we were mountain snowmobilers in our 340cc Yamahas, trail riding at its best. Another humorous tale was my mom and dad's 40th anniversary. Bill agreed to be my dad, and Pam's sister Merle was his wife. We recreated their original wedding, and my dad was a lumberjack and Mom was a city girl. So Billy and Merle dreamed up some fake vows. We hired Mike O'Connor with Goonigrams to act as lumberjack. He pretended to cut down trees and made all sorts of chainsaw noises, and we all laughed our heads off for hours. Bill was such a great sport during this party, he became my mom's favorite person to spoil. So every week or every second week, for years, she would make him his favorite butter tarts. Or scotch went along with it sometimes, if it was Friday. Billy was an easygoing, fun-loving person and a great human being, which I'm proud to call my friend. 2 years ago, I was hunting up north on Watson Lake with my son Jeff, nephew Scott, and Chris, a friend of theirs. And Chris left his truck keys with the pilot. Well, when we got back, the pilot lost the keys and we were stranded in Watson Lake. We phoned everywhere for rentals. We couldn't find any, so I phoned Grand Prairie, and Bill told my wife that he'd be happy to drive the 14 hours to rescue us, as long as we had to drink a scotch waiting. Well, he arrived at midnight to find there was no single malt scotch in Watson Lake, so we drank the Ballantines instead. That is what you call a true friend. My heartfelt condolences go to Lacey, his sons Carrie and Chris, and the family. We will miss you, Billy.
Thank you, Bob. Really appreciate those words. We're going to have an open mic, and I know Connie, Bill's sister-in-law, has a few words that she wants to say. So I'm going to ask her if she'd like to come now.
Hello, I'm Connie Matlock. I'm Lacey's sister. My brother-in-law, Bill, has always been very willing to help with whatever we were doing on the ranch. Whatever it was, getting firewood, hauling bales, fencing, sorting cattle, branding, and so many other things ranchers keep busy doing. My dad was always impressed how Bill was so eager to help out. Bill soon figured out if you sit in the passenger seat, you open all the gates. If you agree to be gate man when sorting cattle, you'll regret it. I thought I would tell you some stories about Wild Bill, the cowboy. Please excuse the language. The first time we met Bill, Lacey had brought him home from Edmonton with her on the May-long weekend in 1978. He was to go on the cattle drive with us to the summer pasture beside the Simonette River. It was a 40-mile trip from home. We did it in 2 days, 2 long days. The first 20 miles we traveled mostly on gravel roads, and the second 20 miles on cut lines and a pipeline. I don't know how much riding Bill had done before the trip, but I would guess not a lot. He was all geared up with riding boots, a cowboy hat, and borrowed chaps. 20 miles herding cattle can be a very long day. You don't just ride straight down the road or the trail. You have to chase them out of people's fields, crops, and yards. They don't like crossing bridges or creeks, and it sometimes takes some fancy riding to get them across. Eventually, they're hot, footsore, and tired, and they move in slow motion. 12 hours after leaving home, we arrived at the Cornwall Creek, where we stopped for the first night. I had suggested to Bill throughout the day that he walk some to limber up. He told me walking was not an option. At the camp, he came over to me while I was unsaddling my horse. He was walking a bit funny, and he asked if I had anything he could put on his ass. I asked him to repeat that, and he said, "I'm raw down there. I need something, anything." I was riding a roping saddle, and there was a container of baby powder tucked under the back of the saddle that ropers sometimes use on their ropes. I handed it to Bill and said, "This is all I have." He shook it into his pants, front and back. There was a big cloud of powder around him. And every time he moved that evening, we could see and smell puffs of baby powder. I'm not sure if it helped him, but he seemed to be walking a bit better. I don't know what Lacey had told him about the cattle drive, but I feel like she left a lot out. Bill eventually graduated to a 3-wheel trike and later a quad. He seemed to like the padded seats much better. He had rented a quad from Redline in Grand Prairie for this trip. We were headed to the grazing lease to check the cattle. We were a few miles from the cabin on the pipeline, and Bill was in the lead. Clay stopped me and asked if I saw smoke ahead. He said it looked like it was coming from Bill's quad. We took off after him, and he just kept driving, not noticing the smoke rolling up behind him. We saw bits of burnt plastic and cloth dropping on the trail behind him. Clay and I had a hard time catching him, but eventually did. We discovered that he had tied a bag of clothes with a big rope on the side of the quad. It had fallen down on the hot muffler and caught on fire. It got hot enough to burn part of the fender. It must have been a good story he told Redline when he returned with that quad. And he wasn't happy with me when I told him he should go pick up all the burnt garbage that he'd scattered for a mile. Another time, we went to our west quarter with Dad to help him treat a cow. It was all hands on deck. We were there in a small bush pasture, and Dad managed to eventually rope a cow while she was running through the bush. We all backed up to get out of the way, except Bill. When Dad got the rope on her, Bill, always eager to help, jumped in and grabbed the rope between Dad and the cow. The cow took a run at him and then went around a poplar tree, pinning Bill against the tree. She ran ahead until the rope tightened. There was a cow at one end, Dad at the other end, and Bill in the middle. Dad later told me he had looked over at Bill, and he looked like a sausage tied tight in the middle. We managed to get Bill untangled and the cow under control and treated. Bill was kind of beat up and a bit mad. He asked Dad after, "Why the hell didn't you let go of the rope?" Dad said, "It took me a long time to rope her in this brush. Why the hell would I let go?" Early one spring, I was cleaning out the front of the barn. There was a cow in the back with a new calf, a black Angus cow. I was busy forking in new straw, and Bill wandered over and said, "Oh, there's a new calf back there. Can I go in and see it?" I jokingly said, "If you want to," not thinking anyone in their right mind would want to. We had to be careful around those cows when they first calved. She knew me, and she would reach out and smell my coat when I went in, but she didn't know Bill. I heard the cow beller, and I turned around just in time to see her swinging her head at him and snorting. He was in the back corner where there was no escape route. He immediately put his hand on her forehead to stop her. Not the best idea. She threw him halfway up the barn wall 3 times before I could get in to save him. I helped him to the house as once again he badly needed ice and ibuprofen and Lacey. Everyone got mad at me for sending him in with the cow, but I really didn't think he'd go. It was actually a really good thing that Bill married a nurse. Dad was away teaching a trapping course one winter. He was due home the next day. But Mom was pretty sure her cows were going to starve if they didn't get fed before then. Like Mom's cows could ever starve. She thought we could just push a couple 1,200-pound round bales off the pile and wouldn't have to start the tractor in the cold. The last bales that were hauled home were just dumped in a huge pile and not stacked. We managed to roll a couple of them down to the cows, but just as we pushed on the last one, Bill fell down a hole between the randomly stacked bales with his arms at his sides. All we could see was the pom-pom on top of his tooth. He was quite a ways down. We tried to help him, but we would get the giggles. And all Mom and I could do was knock snow and hay down his neck for the first 15 minutes. He called us some pretty bad names, which made us laugh even harder. I don't know how he fell in there with his arms at his sides. It's just one of those Billy things. It took us a long time to get him out, and he wasn't speaking to us by then. I would like to acknowledge Jake's delivery service. Since Bill lived in Grand Prairie, he was always delivering something we needed at home. Tractor parts, chicken feed, cattle tags, groceries, half a beef from the butcher, you name it, Bill picked it up and delivered it to us. He was never really happy to do it, but we just ignored the grumbling, and we greatly appreciated it. We're really going to miss Jake's delivery service. There are so many stories of the fun times we had. I will dearly miss you, Bill, and all the laughs we've had over the years. Thank you for being you.
Thank you, Connie. From the sounds of some of those stories, I'm amazed that Bill lasted and lived as long as he did. So, one thing, though, is baby powder will never smell the same to me anymore. So. Just going to invite anyone else, if you have maybe a short anecdote or story that you'd like to share at this time.
Hello, everybody. I'm Bill Aldred. Good to see all the friends here today, family. And just like to, I'm very honored that I could say a few words about my friend Bill. When I knew I was coming this weekend, I reached out to a couple buddies of Bill's that couldn't make it today, and they sent me some emails. So I'm going to read those first, and then I'll share what I wrote. Please convey our condolences to Lacey and the boys. We have fond memories of being hockey and fastball parents together with Bill and Lacey for many years. Bill was very dedicated to his family, and he was always there to lend a hand. Bill will be missed. Bob McVeigh. I first met Billy Jacobson back in the 1980s when we were both involved in the Wapiti Men's Fastball League. Bill and I shared a common bond. Not only did we play a sport we extremely passionate about, but for 15 plus years, we served as coach, manager, organizer, fundraiser, league executive, and any job that needed to be done to keep fastball growing in Grand Prairie. Bill was community-minded. Billy J, as he was affectionately called, was the only man I knew that could convince an army of retired and active ball players to give up their time and energy to assemble all the bleachers for the new South Bear Creek Ball Diamonds. Interestingly, though, once Bill got the troops assembled and everyone had their job, I never saw Bill for the rest of the day. Except when it was time for lunch break. Bill single-handedly managed to recruit some of the most elite senior fastball players to come out and help run weekend fastball camps for the upcoming young boys and girls of the Grand Prairie area. Bill gave sacrificially of his time and talents. After our playing days were over, I had the opportunity to coach and manage both of our sons in minor fastball. I was extremely thankful for the incalculable hours Bill would show up at the diamond, grab a bat, and hit countless fly balls to the kids. Then he would grab his aged, well-used trapper and head over to his favorite position, first base, while the boys worked on their infield skills. Now, Bill was long past his prime by then, and his lack of height and limited mobility, actually no mobility, forced the boys to throw extremely accurately each and every time, because the boys soon discovered that if they didn't throw the ball to Bill without pinpoint accuracy, they were going to be the ones running down the right field line and shagging their own badly thrown balls. Bill's boys, Carrie and Chris, were the same age as my son, Andrew. And Bill and I spent numerous hours in the dugout, on the field, and just hanging out at the ball diamond. Bill loved sitting around after the games, drink in hand, swapping stories of our old playing days, or just talking about life in general. I recall one year, Carrie and Andrew were playing together in Bantams. We won Alberta and went to Western Canadians, which was held in the buzzing metropolis of Winkler, Manitoba. We organized a bus to take all the parents and players. Upon arriving, many of the adults were gravely disappointed that there was no place in the Mennonite town of Winkler that sold alcohol. We were going to be in that small town either at the ball diamond or sitting around for 5 days, 5 long days with no adult libations. Bill, in his infinite wisdom, used his persuasive powers and managed to convince a local resident to drive him to the next town for some Mennonite sausages. While there, he filled the trunk with enough alcohol to last the GP entourage for at least a week. I asked Bill, "Why did you buy so much booze?" And he said, "Well, in case we go into extra innings." With his passing, Bill Jacobson is leaving behind an unwavering legacy of kindness, compassion, and generosity. I will miss you, Bill, and I'll always hold on to the amazing memories we shared together. Lacey, Carrie, Chris, please know that your husband, your father, made a significant difference in the lives of hundreds of softball enthusiasts in Grand Prairie. I'm sorry for your loss. I wish you healing and peace. Hope you feel surrounded with much love today and the times to come. Gary Hawks. My first memory of Bill was in 1981 playing fastball out in Sexsmith versus the Sexsmith Hotel team. Many famous fellows played on that team: Ed Whitfield, Keith Whitfield, Eddie Marrier, and this intense fellow playing first base, chirping at us from his position, daring us to hit it down the line, creeping in closer and closer, and brandishing this floppy old trapper. Folks, this was Billy Jacobson. When he came to bat from the left side, he was one tough out, fouling pitch after pitch off, and finally chinking one over the shortstop into right field. He turned many a double into a single with his lack of foot speed. But Bill loved the game, and as we became friends over the years, we had a desire to make the game grow. Bill was a phone call away from helping out. I would call him and say, "Billy J, Billy A here. I need your help," or vice versa. We organized many leagues and tournaments over the years. In 1995, I joined Billy J and Bob Norberto to coach a midget boys team to a berth in Western Canadians. We'd chartered a bus, and to this day I'm still a little miffed at Billy. When we got to the parking lot to load up Billy, he said, "Okay, Bill, here's the plan. You get to look after these rascals for the next 2 days. I'll see you in Weyburn. I'm going with Bob in the motorhome." Yeah, they never told me about that deal. Yeah, you got me, Bill. We had a great week at Westerns and a fun bus ride. As we got older and the boys grew up, I would go to the park to watch games, and faithfully, Billy J would be there with Lacey, cheering on whoever was playing and keeping score. Going from dugout to dugout, everyone in every team knew Billy J. Lacey, Carrie, Chris. I love Billy J as a true friend. Your loss hurts so much for me and the whole softball community. I miss picking up the phone and hearing, "Billy A, it's Billy J, what's up?" Lacey, Carrie, Chris, and to the rest of your family, we share your grief. We share your sorrow. I wish you all God's peace in this sad time. Billy J is rounded third, headed for home. Somewhere he's playing the game he loves, or he's keeping score, or just hanging out and being Billy J.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Ken Bruno, and I've got to know Bill, of course, through fastball. Gotta give me a minute here to organize things here. First met Bill in the early 1990s. He was a very kind gentleman, always had a smile on his face, willing to help and probably give his shirt off at the back if someone asked him. He always treated me with great respect. He loved fastball, his kids, his family, and of course the Edmonton Oilers. He was always first in line to help with any organization and mostly anything to do with fastball over the years that came into Grand Prairie. One of those events that he was instrumental in organizing was the making of our Masters fastball team. We became known as the Classics. Those few years together, we became one big family. His two boys and my girls. And we traveled all over together. I'd load up my trailer, he'd load up his motorhome, throw the kids in, and away we'd go. We always had lots of laughs together. When we weren't playing ball, we'd be gone camping. And a few of those weekends weren't always the best. There's inclement weather and that kind of stuff. The one time I recall is we went to Sturgeon Lake, and Bill was going to get ready to go fishing. He was along the dock, and for some reason he stood up in the boat, and if you can picture this, it starts rocking. He goes to reach for the edge of the dock, and he missed, and over the boat goes, and he goes down. He gets up sputtering, like he sat up, and there was only water to hear maybe. He must have thought he was in at least 10 feet of water. He comes up, sits there, and I don't know where he found his whistle, but he starts blowing his whistle. And a big grin on his face, of course, like normal. And then there were two little boys standing on the dock there. And they said, well, oh, I can't believe you did that. And off they ran, probably to tell their parents of this guy that tipped the boat over along the dock. He did manage to find all his fishing gear and fishing rods there after about 10, 15 minutes, searching down the bottom of the lake. Another one, I forget where we were camping, but there again, it was inclement weather for sure. And out, he said, well, I have some tarps. So, okay, we're going to hang these out over the fire pit and through the trees. And they had quite a few holes in them. So the water was pouring in different spots. Out comes the duct tape. We managed to get most of them filled. Red Green would have been proud of us that weekend. And other trip we went on, we're going to Courtney to play ball, going to the island. I was leading and Bill was behind us in his motorhome. Traveling along, and I couldn't see him in my rear view mirror, so I pull over a little stop sign, a little sight, wait for him. Probably a good hour later, he finally comes by. What happened? He said, well, the last big truck we passed, the rock flew up. Oh, I broke it. That wasn't part of the story. But anyway, a rock had come through, and then the window over the front of his motorhome, over the deck, over the steering wheel net, smashed. So he had to stop and get that fixed. So we could get together, we leave again. And then we get to the ferry. There's a man up in front directing us which lane to get into and how far over. He's directing Bill in his motorhome to get over close to the wall. Well, he gets so close, he takes out his awning. Out comes the duct tape and tie wraps again. So, but in the end, he always had a big smile, laugh about things. And we're done playing ball, and we stopped at his brother, the late Keith. Stopped at his place for an afternoon, and Keith had a house right along the creek, the little river. And of course, he had fishing rods. And me, the great fisher I am, he put a hook on for me, and I went to cast. A bunch of trees overhanging branches. So I get the first one all tangled up, and they started laughing. I said, you got another one? I wasn't going to wait to untangle that. Have you got another hook? Yeah. Into another. I did that probably half a dozen times, catching a bunch of leaves. I did manage to catch a couple of fish, I think, trout, I remember. It was a great time we had. After our master's team folded, he still traveled around the country, loading up his boys, going to ball tournaments, and like you say, Western Canadians, and he loved his boys, loved watching them on the diamond. There's probably a few other stories that have to do more with the ball, but I can't recall them. And a few of the fellows I contacted, they couldn't remember either. I guess that just goes with age. And there's some that I could tell, but they involve Lacey. But we don't have enough time in a day to tell all those. I know he's up there somewhere, probably organizing some of the guys together to get ready for spring training. And probably getting ready for the game tonight, too. Rest in peace, Bill. I'm going to miss you. Just another couple of condolences between my family and from Steve and Jan Smith and from Tim Krause.
At this time, I'd like to ask Kim Jacobson to come to the mic.
Hi everyone, my name is Kim Jacobson. Uncle Bill, I'm one of Uncle Bill's nieces. I just have a few scriptures to read. 2 Corinthians 1, 3-5. Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of mercies and God of all comfort, who comforts us in all our tribulations, that we may be able to comfort those who are in any trouble with the comfort with which we ourselves are comforted by God. Matthew 11, 28-30, Jesus said, "Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light."
Thank you, Kim. I'd like to read Psalm 23. It's often called the Shepherd's Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup runneth over. And all the days of surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Bill wasn't a farmer. He wasn't a rancher. He wasn't a cattleman. But I think he was very intrigued by all of that, and listening to the stories of, especially Connie, and how willing he was to try whatever was there and do the best that he possibly could, even if it meant not being able to sit down for a couple of days after riding all day in a saddle. But David, the king of Israel, was a farmer. He was a shepherd. That was his background. He had, as a young boy, cared for his father's sheep. And I, maybe wrongly, sort of pictured David later in life, sitting on his porch, reflecting on the days gone by, and thinking about those days, those innocent days as a young boy looking after the sheep. And he could recognize how God had, in similar ways, looked after him. And he was able to, as a poet, relate his experiences as a shepherd with God's relationship with him and with us. And I think in Psalm 23, we see three aspects of God's character that I think David would say called God as the divine shepherd. And it describes that divine relationship with each of us. And I think the first aspect of God's character is found in verses 1-3, and is that God is our provider. David said that the shepherd would lead to green pastures, pastures with the tender grass that weren't dried out, that had the nourishment that was needed for those animals. And he recognized God's dealing with him throughout his life as being able to take him to those places where he got the nourishment, the spiritual nourishment that he needed. And the still waters, if you think of that for a minute, it wasn't the fast-flowing waters where the sheep would wander in and get carried downstream. It was the still waters where there was a peace and a sense of serenity and tranquility there. And so that the sheep could easily walk out and drink their fill, and how God was there with him in all those aspects of his life as well, to protect him and to provide all the things that he was really needed. And I think the second aspect of God's character is found in verses 4 and 5, and that's God is our protector. He says that he brings us comfort and freedom, that there's no fear. No matter where you're walking, there's no fear because God is with you. He is with us, and it shows it in so many different ways in each of our lives. And we could look back in even Bill's life and maybe unknowingly all of those times that perhaps it was God that was protecting him and bringing him to through these experiences that he had in his life. I said Bill wasn't a farmer, but Bill's mom and my mom were sisters. And their parents farmed just south of Spruce Grove, just outside of Edmonton. And that's where they grew up. And all of us as cousins have fond memories of going to the farm and helping out, catching gophers, putting up hay, all of those things. And, I remember Bill. I was quite a bit younger, but, real commotion at the farm and coming in, and the 22 accidentally went off and shot Bill in the foot. So all of those things that, you look back on your life and you think, maybe it was more than just a coincidence. And so you see God as a protector there as well. And the third aspect, I think, is found in verse 6. And that's God as our promiser. And you see a sense of covenant. He said, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. He says, surely. It's a surety. It's a fact that goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life. And I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So that's the promises of God. And it conveys us a real sense of covenant, a legal contract, that goodness and mercy will surely follow us, and that there is an eternity there. So I think David recognized, as he reflected back in his life and the way that we've kind of reflected back on Bill's life here, that, there is a divine shepherd. And that he has characteristics that are endless. A provider, a protector, and a promiser. And I guess it's up to us to find those moments in our lives where we recognize that as well. I'm going to ask Cousin Barbie. She wants to be called Barb now because she's all grown up. But as kids, it was Barbie and Billy, and Barbie will always be Barbie in my heart. So we're going to sing together the hymn, "The Lord is My Shepherd." going to have a video tribute this time, I think.
Before I fly and wave goodbye, I say to you, days with you are the best years of my life. But if I don't see you anymore, keep my words safely stored, and I'll be back, I promise, once more. Goodbye, goodbye, till I see you again. Goodbye, goodbye, I'll love and I'll miss you till then. Remember me, 'cause I care where you are and how you fare. Get in touch if the wind blows in your face. I guess it's been too much fun. We've shared and we've won. Yes, the best is yet to come. Goodbye, goodbye, till I see you again. Goodbye, goodbye, I'll love and miss you till then. That one word hurts so bad. You leave the best you had, but you keep the faith and pray to return. Goodbye, goodbye, I'll love and I'll miss you till then. Goodbye, 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 goodbye. Sing my share of broken halos, floating wings that used to fly. They've all gone wherever they go, broken halos that used to shine. Hang
Don't go looking for the reasons. Don't go asking Jesus why. We're not meant to know the answers. They belong to the by and by. They belong to the by and by. Seen my share of broken halos, folded wings that used to fly. They've all gone wherever they go. Broken halos that used to shine. Broken halos that used to shine. Broken halos that used to shine. Broken halos that used to shine.
The first thing I remember is the game that I love. A man on a diamond with a golden glove. Daddy with me in the cheap seats above, saying, boy, keep your eye on the ball. The crack of the bat, the stadium's roar. We were up on our feet for the tie-breaking score. I said, Daddy, I know what you brought me here for. He said, good, I hoped you'd hear the call. Life's a fastball, belt high, coming right down the middle. Don't stand there and let it go by. Swing hard and aim for the stands. My field of dreams was covered in stone, an old gravel parking lot next to our home. Dad on the mound until the daylight was gone, saying, boy, keep your eye on the ball. 'Cause it's hey batter, swing batter, swing. The world is an infield, always chattering. If you don't concentrate, they'll spoil your timing, and you'll walk away cussing them all. Life's a fastball, belt high, coming right down the middle. Don't stand there and let it go by. Swing hard and aim for the stands, and thank God for your fans. Thank God for your fans. Thank God for your fans. Thank God for your fans.
And now the end is near, and so I face the final curtain. My friend, I'll say it clear, I'll state my case, of which I'm certain. I've lived a life that's full. I traveled each and every highway, and more, much more than this, I did it my way. Regrets, I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention. I did what I had to do, saw it through without exemption. I planned each charted course, each careful step along the byway, and more, much more than this, I did it my way. Yes, there were times, I'm sure you knew, when I bit off more than I could chew. But through it all, when there was doubt, I ate it up and spit it out. I faced it all, and I stood tall, and did it my way. I've loved, I've laughed and cried, I've had my fill, my share of losing, and now, as tears subside, I find it all so amusing to think I did all that, and may I say, not in a shy way, oh no, not me. I did it my way. For what is a man? What has he got? If not himself, then he has not to say the things he truly feels, and not the words of one who kneels. The record shows I took the blows and did it my way. Yes, it was my way.
My famous last words are laying around in tatters, sounding absurd. Whatever I try, but I love you, and that's all that really matters. If this is goodbye, if this is goodbye,
bright shining sun would light up the way before. You were the one, made me feel I could fly, and I love you. Whatever is waiting for me, if this is goodbye, if this is goodbye.
who knows how long we got?
Thank you, Connie, for putting that together. Ask the Dandino girls if they would come now. Bill's cousins, Barb on the piano with Sandy and Michelle, and Barb's husband Terry singing as well. So thank you very much. That brings us to the end of our formal service. Just have a couple announcements. Interment of Bill's ashes will take place at a later date in the DeBolt Cemetery, and I'm sure Lacey will be reaching out to people to set a time and a date for that. So, and there is a lunch after downstairs in the basement, elevator for those that maybe can't navigate the stairs, and I hope you'll all come down and talk with Lacey and Carrie and Chris and their families, and I'm sure there's lots more stories that can be told about Bill, and that's what would be a good time for that as well. So we're going to close now with the Lord's Prayer. We'll have it up in there. If you could join me in saying that as well, please. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those that trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Now may the Lord bless us and keep us. May the Lord make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon us and give us peace this day and forevermore. So let us depart in peace and charity with each other. May we all be joined together in love and harmony. Let us all drive safely and carefully to our homes after, and may God's blessing be with us all. Amen.
When I got the news today, I didn't know what to say, so I just hung up the phone. I took a walk to clear my head, and this is where the walk-in led. Can't believe you're really gone. Don't feel like going home, so I'm gonna sit right here on the edge of this pier and watch the sunset disappear and drink a beer. Funny how the good ones go too soon, but the good Lord knows the reasons why, I guess. Sometimes a greater plan is kind of hard to understand. Right now it don't make sense. I can't make it all make sense, so I'm gonna sit right here on the edge of this pier and watch the sunset disappear and drink a beer. So long, my friend, until we meet again. I'll remember you and all the times that we used to sit right here on the edge of this pier and watch the sunset disappear and drink a beer. Bay. When I got the news today, I didn't know what to say, so I just hung up the phone. I took a walk